The Global Competitiveness Report is assessing countries on 12 key pillars of competitiveness. Essentially, it's trying to judge, do you have the factors of productivity in place or not? And this ranges from things like education and skills, institutions, all the way through to the business dynamism in your country and the innovation ecosystem. Within any particular sector inside an economy. What happens when you looking at this new methodology, the United States comes out at number 1, and Chad comes out at the very bottom of the rankings at 140. Now, what's really important is we're assessing everybody against an ideal. So there's a frontier, which is a score of 100, and that is where you reach perfection in terms of the factors of competitiveness. At the bottom end is where you basically have complete imperfection. And the United States comes out at 85.6, which essentially means that there's still some room to grow for even the number 1 economy in the world. For certain sectors who are now facing competition from the rest of the world. At the same time, it's also important to look at the worrying signs, which may not keep the U.S. at their number 1 position in the future. One is health. The U.S. remains one of the lowest ranked economies, advanced economies, when it comes to that factor. For example, Japan, people live on average at least 6 years longer of their healthy life expectancy. A second aspect is workers' rights. And so this is one of the areas where the U.S. is ranked in the 80s. So it's a country that is doing extremely well in terms of its labor market dynamism overall, but workers' rights remain low. Active labor market policies are also somewhat missing as compared to other advanced economies. And then finally, when it comes to independence of the judiciary and independence of the press, there are also some extremely worrying signs, and those are also included in the index.
I think it's fair to say now we're going to be running more campaigns, getting a bit more active in terms of pushing for the kind of change that we want to see.
So there are 98 indicators, about 70% of them roughly come from international organizations, and those statistics are updated regularly, but there's usually a 2 to 3 year time lag within them. The second aspect is the survey-related data, and that is where we collect the data from business executives in the first half of every year, but then we combine the data from 2017 with 2018. And so there are some aspects that are coming in that are based on this administration's time period, and other aspects that are from before.
Well, so they're part of the media team like me. So I've got 2 bosses. I've got Fon is also my boss.
Oh yeah, Fon.
Even when it comes to some of the business sentiment, which obviously relates to some of the changes that have taken place that the administration's done over this past 1 year, even there, the questions that we're asking them are really about the long-term fundamentals of competitiveness. So I would say this is really about that longer term and a little bit less about some of the short-term measures.
This is going to sound crazy, but just like your gestures are awesome.
I mean, if anything, this report is saying there are no silver bullets, right? This report is saying that there used to be this model for development that used to be prescribed in the second half and primarily the second quarter of the last century, where we used to say you have to compete on the basis of your low-skilled labor, you need to industrialize first, then you need to bring in other aspects of growth and competitiveness. That model no longer exists, not in a world where you have cheaper capital and cheaper technology than ever before. And what we've done is removed any of those prescriptive aspects. And we've said anywhere across those 12 pillars of competitiveness, countries have to design their own sequencing strategy, but no country can afford to neglect any one of those parts. To that diversity inside the workforce. And obviously making these both key economic indicators.